Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to stop hiding behind Israel and Palestine. This is the impression I got. Instead of talking about Britain and how to make it great, people choose a team, Israel or Palestine, and they pretend that is the argument. It's everywhere, literally everywhere. You cannot run away from the Middle East in England. Thank you for all the attention, but you see, even if Israel disappeared tomorrow, the NHS will not be fixed. And even if the idea of Palestine will die tomorrow morning, the NHS still will not be fixed. For example, cousin marriage, something that is affecting the NHS. There are problems that are uniquely UK. This is a video about culture. So why did I bring up the NHS and cousin marriage? You see, cousin marriage is actually a very interesting example of mixed cultures. On one hand, you have Pakistanis who mostly marry their cousins. And on the other hand, you have Britain that for centuries now avoided debating the issue of cousin marriage. Because at some point the royal family was like, well, what if I want to marry my cousin? Gotta allow that. On one hand, we have the royal family that wanted the option to marry their cousin available, because why not, royals. And on the other hand, we had an unexpected factor, a Pakistani population that flooded into England, Britain, UK. Choose your tea. I love this saying, when the elite sneezes, everybody else gets swine flu and dies. Basically, that's the situation. And on the same kind of mindset, or in the same kind of, the royal family also finds it fascinating and exotic to learn about Islam and so they think it's just a little bit of fun to celebrate Ramadan in Westminster Abbey and there are side effects. But you know what? It's not Islam's fault. Those are choices Britain made that have nothing to do with Islam. Because sometimes, as much as I like making fun of that religion, we need to be fair, okay? Even if Islam collectively disappeared from all of our minds tomorrow morning, Britain forgot how to build a society.
Ourselves today is a reflection of the fact that many of the forces that brought us together and helped build the United Kingdom are now in decline.
When you let people in without understanding your own culture and what makes you you, you will stop being you. If you don't know who you are, how can you explain it to newcomers, right? Newcomers are coming and you're like, okay, so what's British? How am I supposed to behave? What am I supposed to do? And then the Brits are like,
And British identity was also forged through war.
And here is what I experienced. I walked around the United Kingdom and I asked people, what is British culture? And they gave me stupid answers like, oh, British humor is great. Well, at least they didn't try to say it's the food. I mean, one person did say fish and chips, but if you think fish and chips is British culture, no wonder you have inferiority complex when it comes to other cultures like, India. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. You might defend your cuisine as much as you want, but I think maybe that's not a rabbit hole I want to go into. Anyway, I want to actually talk about British culture because clearly the camel doesn't see their hump, and that is you, Britain. You don't understand your own culture and what you bring with you. So let me help you with that. And there are a lot of different aspects in British culture that I'm going to talk about in future videos. But in this video, I want to focus on one particular cultural aspect.
British identity was always strongly linked to religion and the Protestant faith. And yet, the United Kingdom today is one of the least religious states in the world.
And that is something that, an expression I coined when I thought about this video. I mean, I hope I made that one up, so it might have been plagiarized by me not remembering where exactly my brain fetched that term from. But if it's not, and I actually invented it, I want trademark and copyrights.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to have an argument, please.
I see. Do you want to have the full argument, or were you thinking of taking a course?
So, unapologetic politeness, meaning the ability to state one's thoughts unapologetically without slipping into personal insults or taking things personally. Here are some examples. In 1791, the Society at Coachmakers Hall debated the question, is not the war now carrying on in India disgraceful to this country, injurious to its political interest and ruinous to the commercial interests of the company? On 2 separate occasions, deciding almost unanimously that war is unjust, disgraceful, and ruinous. It takes a certain kind of culture to do something like that. And you might take it for granted that they criticized themselves this way, but it is unique. That is British culture. Even now, most cultures cannot tolerate criticism and not take it personally. Believe me, I know. I get unsubscribed people every time I criticize a very big Western country that doesn't like to be criticized. So even in Western world, it's not to be taken for granted at all. Okay? So this is unique to British culture. This is British culture. And you are losing it because you cannot define who you are. So I'm helping you. All right? You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Here's another quote I got here. The Society for Free Debate asked, for example, can a Roman Catholic, consistent with his religious principles, be a good subject to a Protestant prince? They asked that way back in 1776. I don't think you can ask questions like that anymore, actually, which is sad. Fast forward to today. I landed in Liverpool and I met great people, and there is one story I want to tell you. When I walked down the street with this lovely lady, Liverpoolian young lady, okay, I don't want her to sound old, she's not old, and she told me how she met her husband or partner in a debate club and how they could debate anything there. And by the way, I wrote myself a fun, nerdy fact that, British parliamentary style is a major form of academic debate that originated in Liverpool in the mid-1800s. So I think it's, again, very wholesome, or, we're closing circles here because the story is from Liverpool. So, sarcastic me was like, I actually thought that, hearing everything I heard, that there is no more argumentation or debate culture in Britain, or actually the West in general. It's not something you can do. So I was excited and I said something like, oh, that is amazing, that is great. So maybe there is hope and things are not that bad. Long story short, the club was closed because of... Anyway, I guess this is why they never invite me to fun parties. Yeah, the club was closed because they couldn't debate anymore. That ability is lost, even in Liverpool. And they invented it. Come on, can't you remember that? Anyway. Here's where we're at, okay? We lost the ability to conduct a debate, and the only debates we're having is the ones that somebody has to come on top, and the winner, or the so self-proclaimed winner just gets out of the debate and starts pounding on their chest like a gorilla, saying, "Yay, I won." Okay. And the whole goal of the debate is just to come on top of each other. That's it. It's not a conversation. And the ability to have like a gentleman club with ladies, of course, as well, sipping tea and respecting one another and changing course, debating, listening, hearing what the other party has to say, and then changing course accordingly, learning, evolving. That kind of culture requires respect, not obedience. All right, so what does obedience has anything to do with it? Well, you see, you imported to Britain millions, my suspicion, that those are millions of people who don't understand the difference between respect and obedience. And why is it important? Because when you only understand obedience, the kind of cultures you can create are those based on relationships that are master and slave, because somebody has to come on top. And obviously, both parties never get to any sort of agreement. And yes, there are cultures where respect and obedience are the same thing. They have the same meaning. They don't understand that you can respect someone without submitting to him. Yeah. Submission. I don't know. Rings a bell? By the way, there is a very short distance between slave master kind of mentality to honor killing, because disrespect breaks down a unit, society, country, and families. Someone who doesn't respect you, your privacy, for example, or your need to shower alone, that would break down a household. So imagine if people read this sentence, what I just said, and what they hear is disobedience breaks down a society and a unit. So if somebody disobeys you, that's the worst thing, right? But that introduces a new problem. You have your needs, someone else has their needs, and disobedience is disrespect. So who is the one that deserves the respect? Who is the one that you are supposed to be obedient towards and give respect to and listen to what they're saying? Well, okay, so maybe kids need to respect parents, right? But it's not that clear whose needs would come out on top. And that is an issue I would tackle a little bit later in this video. And I want to say, like I said, it's not about Islam. Now there is a generation of people who don't know the difference between agreement and respect. Completely homegrown, self-made, British. I heard countless stories of people who lost their friends and family because if you disagree with them, there is only one solution: intifada, revolution. You know, children are shaped by their own experiences. And the generation that pushed safe spaces and political correctness down their throats. Listen, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt that when they policed free speech and limited debate, it was all from a good place, right? Wanting to genuinely limit the ill effects of, maybe understandable. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. But here's the thing. I think the miscalculation was that they genuinely thought that freedom of thought is God-given. But guess what? It's not. It's taught. So what happens when the kids who are now adults hear something they don't like? They get angry. They demand submission. I know there is a logical jump here, but stay with me, all right? Here is the logic. All right, it's more politically correct to not talk about religion. And for example, something that people told me is offensive, and they know people who got fired for, is wearing a cross. But when you wear a cross, you basically scream religion. So here's the thing. There is a generation that was taught that being politically correct is more important than anything. So can you wear a cross to a safe space or not? All right, now here is a fun puzzle for you. You have to solve that little issue, but remember, you are not allowed to talk about religion. Do you understand how you screwed up their minds? Because everyone in Britain that I encountered participates in this game of political correctness. Guess what? You can throw away the filters today and you choose not to. So you screwed up the next generations by never showing them there is an alternative to this kind of mindset that doesn't allow you to speak up your mind. And they never learned how to speak up their minds. So they actually never learned how to think. Yeah. Anyway, this fuck up is gonna be very hard to fix because there are developmental points kids need to go through, and you might have missed them. All right, I'm not gonna torture you with trying to understand if you can wear a cross or not. I'll give you possible solutions. Remember, you are not allowed to talk about religion, so one option is to flip a coin. Yes cross, no cross. A bit confusing, but it could work. And obviously, humans hate solutions like that, so they choose the worst option: obedience. And here's why I think that's even worse than letting a coin decide your policy. Because a coin, at least, allows you the freedom to ask questions. You can ask, right? If somebody has a question and the group needs to decide, hey, what's the right answer? You flip a coin. So you have a freedom to ask any question. Obedience takes that away. Yeah, you cannot even ask anything. So that's where we're at. And the question now is actually, who do you obey? Master-slave societies would have things like marginalization points to make it clear who is master and who is slave. The British, for example, used to be masters. Now, to make it fair, you must be slaves. That's, by the way, a relatively nice way to decide who's on top, because it could have also been the number of rapes you have committed. Anyway, congratulations. This is how you ruin a civilization. In the coming weeks, I'll share my experiences and the testimonies of people I interviewed during my UK trip. And I aim to create a space where we can actually discuss the current situation, realities facing Britain, honestly and unfiltered. And together, I hope we can find a path forward to reforge a United Kingdom that shines in greatness once again. All right, everybody, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and please support this channel because I cannot do it without you. If you don't have money, like, comment, share it with your family, friends, and the whole school. I don't care, really. And if you can support me financially, please consider doing so in one of the links below. There is PayPal, there is Patreon, Buy Me Coffee, and there are also super chats or like super thanks here on YouTube, but they take a little bit more of the money, so maybe the other links are better. And actually, the best option is to sign up to my course, Understanding Humanity. All right, thank you all for watching and see you later. Britain, do you guys like my hat?